I've been getting a lot of requests for Axis and Allies, Flames of War, and even High Frontier. So let's play Battletech! I take what I can get when it comes to games, and today we're taking the word of Blake in, fighting for the future with an LRM heavy army. Opposing me today is the Clan Chromium Pigeon with its Mad Cat A with its twin ERPPCs and a bunch of lasers, and the Ryokan E with ATM-9s. As the word of Blake, my entire army is actually encompassed in a C3I network, which is pretty handy. It actually inflates the value of everything in the network, but it also is not as useful as you might think, because the LRM carriers don't get any kind of benefit to indirect fire while using the C3 network as much as I would otherwise have liked. So I try to park them on the center, try to protect them so that I can hopefully swing them left or right, or at least just use them to kind of anchor my center line. Tag the Mad Cat in the distance, and hopefully just keep things nice and safe for the lighter mechs that can't really take on the clan mechs by themselves. And though he only has 2 mechs, that Mad Cat A is actually really nice. It's a really powerful twin ERPPC carrier. I mean, that's nothing to shrug your shoulders at. And the Ryokan is really nice. It's one of the best medium clan mechs in the game. But in this matchup, we have a strange dichotomy. The word of Blake actually outpaces the clan mechs. Most of my stuff moves at 7-11, aside for the atrociously slow LRM carriers, and most of his stuff, well, it's a 5-8 and a 6-9, respectively. That's pretty important. Being able to dictate the pace of the game while the LRM carriers can actually dictate the range at which the game is taking place is an incredible advantage to have in Battletech, especially when the terrain is as sparse as it is on this point. As the clan has lost the initiative both turns so far, he opts to go into the buildings over there, and I will take that every time. I send the light ray in there, trying to narrow down the avenues of return fire that he might get, specifically from the Mad Cat, and singles out the Ryokan. We're going to go into close combat with him, just because if I can knock him over, or if I can cause him to fail a PSR at some point in time, that's potentially a turn's worth of fire that I don't have to worry about. He only has 2 units, and a lot of BV tied up into those units. One turn of no fire from any one of them is a significant advantage. LRM carriers manage to pop a couple rounds into the Ryokan, the Light Ray manages to do quite a bit of damage too, and even the Malak manages to pop a couple holes into the right side of the Ryokan. We don't manage to breach the armor, but we do give it a PSR. They, in return, and this is not to be taken lightly, any ATM-9 is nasty when it's up close with those HEs, manages to PSR the Light Ray by himself. The Ryokan manages to beat in with a lot of missiles. It's really like a high explosive shotgun to the face. You just cross the building around the side and BAM! It's like the Star Spangled Banner made of death. Light Ray goes in for a kick, hits, but the Stormcrow, my buddy, is no stranger to physical combat, kicks back and manages to cause a PSR that the Light Ray fails, right in front of 2 hostile clan mechs. With the Gambit in play, I start realizing one of the principal problems with my strategy that my buddy is about to point out for me very rudely. Moving the LRM carriers forward, I thought I wanted to get a nice clean line of sight, has made them extremely vulnerable to a counter charge as he throws the Ryokan forward and the Mad Cat, trying to get a beat on either one of them so that he can take care of them immediately, because he realized that they are easily my biggest damage dealers on the board. I rush to compensate. I understand what's at stake right now. I cannot really save the LRM carriers. I've already made my mistake. One of them is most likely to die to the Ryokan that is charging them, so I double down on the thing that I can affect. I'm going to take down the Mad Cat as much as I can. The LRM carriers beat in on him, throwing the maximum amount of firepower. So does the Light Ray and the Malak, and we managed to riddle the thing full of holes. We managed to do over 80 points of damage, and using that extra attack ops roll gives him a +4 ultimately to his PSR at the end of the turn for all the damage that he managed to take. Now, this might really sound like a word of Blake thing to say, but you really got to understand calculated losses. I've already made my mistake. There's nothing I can do against the Ryokan with all of its armor for at least a turn or 2. So I need to understand that I'm probably going to lose an LRM carrier. So you need to take advantage of what you can, because he's already within the minimum range of the LRM carriers, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. But the next turn or 2, after I take care of the Mad Cat, I will be able to send them over and take care of the Ryokan, and hopefully everyone isn't dead. At this tactical level, it is a lot like dogfighting. His buddy has decided to leave him alone, and since I've got a numerical advantage, I am going to gang up on flight lead. And as I do, I manage to knock him over. I start kicking the mess out of him while he's on the ground, and he absolutely gets ravaged for it. He is in forced withdrawal already, managing to take several criticals, two of which were a gyro and an engine hit. Clan loses initiative again, but this is an important point for the Word of Blake. Do you go after the Mad Cat that is now in forced withdrawal, and as far as the scenario is concerned, you don't really have to do any more damage to it, but is still in fighting trim? Even though it took a point of engine damage, it can blow off nearly everything, all the heat that it has against it, and it still has a pretty decent amount of armor. But it's got a lot of holes in it. I mean, you can kill it if you need to. You just need to dedicate another couple back shots at it. Or do you go after the Ryokan, which is taking on the LRM carriers, and potentially in the game a little bit faster? Well, obviously, as you can see here, I decided to go after the Ryokans, because I just need to save those LRM carriers as fast as I can. He managed to whiff last turn nearly all his shots at the LRM carrier, and I was quite grateful for that. And the LRM carriers managed to live another turn and deal some 60 points of damage to the Mad Cat right in front of it, even though it's within a couple hexes of minimum range. And this is where I'm really shooting myself in the foot. I pay the BV for the C3I network, but I'm not really using it. The range that the LRM carriers are at, they can just shoot at them themselves. They don't need to rely on the C3 network. But again, this is another case of the dogfighting buddy deciding to leave his element to fight by himself. And so the Malak, fast as it is, manages to get behind the Stormcrow, rip open its back armor with all its little small lasers and two mediums, and the Light Ray manages to continue to overheat. Last turn he alpha striked again into the Ryokan. You're not going to get a 0 mod on that Ryokan again anytime soon, so you better open up with all the guns. Intent on killing off the thing that's sandpapering off the armor on all their other mechs, the Mad Cat and the Ryokan manages to beat in on one of the LRM carriers and blows it to pieces, filling it full of holes and taking off the internal structure on the back. Light Ray has a reactor shut down right in front of the Stormcrow, while leaving the Malak alone to serve as the sole fighter in the game, kicks the Ryokan right in front of him and knocks him down. The tables have turned. Even though technically the Mad Cat has been destroyed, it is still in fighting trim, and it is capable of exhibiting a whole lot of damage downrange. The only fighting trim unit for the next turn is the Malak, and the LRM carrier is way too close to do much damage to anything, and the Ryokan's actually in pretty good condition. The tables have turned, and the clan now has the upper hand. I lose the initiative for the first time in the game, but I managed to sink it against the shutdown unit right in front of it, forcing him to move the Mad Cat first, and do the best I can with the situation. The holes are open on both of the mechs, but the Mad Cat is my biggest concern because it can do the most damage. I send the Malak behind him, running to do it. The Ryokan sicks itself back after him and manages to plug it full of holes. It's a paper-thin armored mech, but it manages to weather the barrage despite it. Mad Cat opens up at what is essentially point-blank range at the LRM carrier in front of him, blows it to pieces in one salvo, while I make a judgment call at the Malak, decide not to shoot the Mad Cat in front of him, and instead decide to open up on the Ryokan. I just want to start narrowing down the amount of damage I can. I notice that his sheet is really, really close to making the Ryokan a forced withdrawal unit, and therefore sealing the game right there. The LRM carrier made one last defiant shot at the Ryokan as it passed, but it didn't manage to do any damage. As I recall, nearly everything whiffed. But the Malak just barely manages to do just enough damage to cause a PSR on the Ryokan. He falls on his back, manages to do just enough damage to put a point of internal structure damage onto his center torso and right torso, putting him immediately into forced withdrawal. I didn't really realize what that meant. I go ahead and kick the Mad Cat because I'm fighting for my life at this point, and I just need to cause just a little bit more damage. He fails his PSR as well, and then we soon realize that's game right there. Both of his units are in forced withdrawal, handing the game to the Word of Blake. We actually moved on just for a little while before we actually realized this, and we decided to go ahead and play on the next turn because we realized what was at stake. So the Light Ray tries to get up, falls. He tries to get up again, falls. The problem being, he lost his leg to all the shots from the Ryokan the last turn, and in the fall managed to lose his hip, his lower leg actuator, and eventually the entire internal structure. And he just keeps getting up, falling, getting up, falling. He needs to get up to be able to be some sort of effective fighter, because also, admitted from the Batrep, he lost his arm in return fire from the Mad Cat on one turn. So he couldn't even fire from the prone position. It would have been completely different if he could, but, you know, c'est la vie. Ryokan backs up, tries to get out of the way. The Malak swings as fast as he can to get into the back arc of it, because I need to put him down as fast as possible, or at least there's less internal structure to go through than there is through the Mad Cat. And there's also a lot more ammo to go wrong on that thing. So the Malak swings by, tries to plug him full of holes. Instead, the Mad Cat finds him. He's in a good bead. The Ryokan manages to turn and shoot him full of holes as well, leaving the Malak without a leg as well, losing his arm, and leaves him in a dire situation. He gets double PSR, and he's going to face a really bad, this is like +7 on his PSR. Of course, that's if you can make it at all, because he lost a leg. It's an automatic fall. And so that's it. It's pretty clear that the clan would kick the teeth in for my units, because at least they could still move. Mine couldn't. Everyone died in the turn after, and it ended up being a bloody pirate game if there ever was one. We fought right down to the wire, and I just barely pulled it out. This has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching. Looking for a game? We'd love to help you out. We'd also love to meet you. Just, give us a contact, drop on by, and we might be able to help you out. Or just contact the Mid-South Gaming guys. They play everything from War Machine to Flames of War, and they're always looking for a new battle buddy.
Warning! It's the wife! It's the wife!